Hello and welcome to Race for the White House, our daily show where we get you the latest from the 2024 US presidential election. On today's show, we tell you how Elon Musk has found himself in deep controversy after reports of him working in the US illegally have sparked outrage just days before the US election. On the other side of the show, we tell you how adult entertainers have launched a campaign against Donald Trump, asking the nation to vote for Democrats. All of this and much more, so let's get started. With the presidential election just 8 days away, a new controversy is shaking up the political landscape. President Joe Biden is slamming Tesla CEO Elon Musk, accusing him of hypocrisy on immigration issues. The criticism follows a bombshell report by the Washington Post that claims Musk may have once worked illegally in the United States himself. The accusation has blown up in the face of the tech mogul, as Musk has publicly advocated for stricter immigration policies in the United States. According to the report, Musk arrived in California in 1995 for a graduate program at Stanford University. However, he never enrolled in any courses and started working on his startup. The report further claims that investors in Musk's company, Zip2, were concerned about the possibility of their founder being deported. The newspaper also cited a 2005 email from Musk to his Tesla co-founders. And in that mail, Musk acknowledged that he did not have the authorization to be in the United States when he started Zip2. Meanwhile, Democrats didn't let this go unnoticed. President Joe Biden launched a scathing attack on Musk for his hypocrisy on immigration.
The wealthiest man in the world is now his ally, right? Well, that wealthiest man in the world turned out to be a legal worker here when he was here. Oh, I'm serious. He was supposed to be in school when he came on a student visa. He wasn't in school. He was violating the law. And he's talking about all these illegals coming our way.
Now, Musk has been backing Donald Trump in this year's presidential polls. Musk has been heavily backing Trump's narrative on stricter immigration policies. Now, Musk did not waste any time in firing back at these claims. Instead, in a statement released on the microblogging site X, Musk called the report completely false and a smear timed to influence the election. Musk claims he followed all the legal procedures necessary to secure a work visa when he moved to the United States in the mid-1990s. However, critics are now questioning if his advocacy for immigration comes from a genuine concern or from a more self-serving place. Musk is today the world's richest man, and he has committed more than $70 million to help Donald Trump's presidential campaign. He is one of the party's biggest donors this campaign season. He has also been headlining events in the final stretch of the election, often echoing Trump's rhetoric against immigration. Meanwhile, Trump has pledged to give Musk a role in his administration if he wins next month. But for Musk, this could be politically damaging, as it directly challenges his credibility. This controversy is already sparking debates across social media, with users and pundits alike weighing in on both sides. Some argue that Musk's immigration journey is an example of the American dream, and that he shouldn't be penalized for old and unproven allegations. Others say that the claims, if substantiated, would be a clear double standard, which would show how wealthy individuals navigate the system differently than average Americans. With election day right around the corner, Biden's remarks and Musk's response have already added fuel to the election climate. Immigration is already a polarizing topic, and Biden's comments are likely to amplify debates over Musk's influence in American politics. Moving on, Republican VP contender J.D. Vance is taking aim at the Biden-Harris administration and is accusing it of unfairly punishing schools that oppose transgender participation in sports. The controversy centers on a school lunch policy that denies federal mean funding to schools that don't allow transgender athletes in girls' sports. Vance says that the policy goes too far and could harm students in the process. Now, the Ohio senator claims that the Democrats are holding the free school lunch as hostage. The Biden administration, however, defines the policy as part of a broader commitment to ensuring inclusivity and equal protection for all students. Biden believes that tying funding to these guidelines is a way to enforce Title IX. For those of you unaware about Title IX, this is a law that gives protection against discrimination based on both sex and gender identity. However, Vance and other critics argue that it is students in need that may suffer the most. In schools that choose not to comply with the administration's stance on sports, this policy could mean limited or even no access to free or reduced price meals for low-income students who rely on these programs. The implications of this debate spread beyond the school cafeteria. With only a few days left until voters head to the polls, this issue is now front and center for both parties. For Republicans, it's an example of what they describe as an overreaching federal government. And for Democrats, it's a necessary enforcement of Title IX protections. This debate over school funding and gender identity protections underscores a broader ideological divide. Polls show that the American public opinion on transgender participation in sports is deeply divided. Many are supportive of transgender rights, while others feel sports participation should be based on biological sex. But for now, Vance's comments have sparked debate on both sides, raising questions about how far federal authorities should go in enforcing non-discrimination policies, and at what cost it should come to students who rely on these essential meal programs. With the US presidential election fast approaching, one topic is creating a lot of conversation and sometimes confusion, which is early voting. This method has become more popular, especially in recent years, as more Americans look for convenient ways to cast their ballots and avoid long queues. But what exactly is early voting, and how does it work in a system as complex as the United States? Our White House correspondent Rohit Sharma decodes this for you.
America will be electing its next president of the United States on November 5th. There are chances that this election is going to go down the wire and it will be too close to call. Now, there are about 30 million voters who've already cast their ballot. And what we wanted to do is to take you to one of those election centers, early voting centers here in America, where you could see people come in and casting their votes. About 15 million people have been called as early voters, and the other 15 million who've cast their ballots have done that through mail-in ballots. So what we'll try to do today is show you what an election center looks like. We'll try to talk to the Democrats who are trying to convince voters to vote for their candidate. They've been set up on one side of the election center. On the other side, we've got Republicans, who've set up their booth, and they're trying to convince voters to vote for their candidate. We'll try to talk to them. We'll try to talk to some of the voters, coming out of the polling and try to engage from them who they are voting for in this election. Just trying to understand, how does this work? So you're stationed at the booth every day, and I'm assuming you're trying to convince people to vote for Democrats?
So yeah, not every day. You just sign up online for the times you'd like to volunteer. And then yes, you just stand here and ask people if they would like a Democratic sample ballot. And if they have any questions, people can sign up to volunteer. We also sell yard signs, things like that.
But the booth is here every day. Like, there are different volunteers that come to the booth every single day.
Yes.
What are the questions that
almost every day, I'm assuming. It's my first day volunteering. So
okay. What are people saying, when they come in? Like, are they asking you questions about just, the candidates, or are they talking about issues? I mean, can you gauge who they're voting for?
So most people, when they accept the ballot, are voting for Democrats. When people say they're not, I'm not sure if they're going to take a Republican ballot or if they're just choosing not to take a ballot. But most people are saying this is an important election, and they're definitely going to vote. I've had a few people say, you'd be crazy not to vote in this election.
Okay. So. And let me, can you show us, if you move to this side a little bit, I want you to come to this side, and
okay.
And if you could show us what you're holding in your hand. I mean, so that's the
sample ballot that we offer to people if they would like to take it.
Okay, so this is a sample ballot that we're looking at.
Yes.
And it talks about, who should they be voting for. So, I mean, it says Kamala Harris, it says Tim Kaine, that's the senator.
Yes, that's
right?
The senator.
Then you've got Dawn.
Yes, so depending on the district you're in.
Right.
Right.
And I don't see Tim Walz's name here.
So they just have Kamala Harris for U.S. president.
So is this how a ballot would look like when they get into to vote in the?
So the ballot looks a little bit different. It's longer.
Uh-huh.
And then it will explain more of like the bonds and the constitutional amendment. It'll have a little bit more writing on it. So a ballot tends to be fairly long.
Okay. Yeah. And how's the turnout been? Like, more people coming in as we get closer to the election?
I've only been here today to volunteer, but it's been a pretty steady flow. So a few other women who have volunteered here before have said there have been more people coming in today than usual. So.
Okay. Thank you so much for speaking with us.
You're welcome.
Sir, thank you so much for speaking with us.
My pleasure.
What are you picking on? I mean, why should somebody vote for Republicans versus the Democrats?
Well, there's an awful lot on the line for this election. Kamala Harris represents autocratic government. Donald Trump represents free market economy. And people just have to look at what Donald Trump did the first 4 years he was president. The economy boomed, inflation was low, employment was high, and then we got hit with COVID and everything got screwed up. But COVID's gone now. So let's get Trump back in there so he can finish what he started 4 years ago. Okay. If we elect Kamala Harris, I'm afraid that our country is going to be ruined.
And what are you picking from people, like, when people come in to vote? Like, what are people telling you when they come to your booth versus when they're going to vote to Democrats? What are people telling you? Why are they voting for Donald Trump?
Well, they're voting for Donald Trump because they know that there's an awful lot at stake. They vote Republican because they know that the government governs least. The economy functions. There's no government intrusion in their lives. and they're afraid of the competition from Kamala, that she's going to really show her true colors. You know, we haven't heard a thing from her the entire election about what she stands for, what she plans to do, what her policies will be, because she can't tell what they really are. No one would vote for her. So people are afraid of what will happen if she's elected.
Okay.
That's why an awful lot of people are voting for Trump.
Do you think he's got it in the bag? Do you think he's going to win?
Oh, nothing is ever in the bag. We're in Fairfax County, Virginia, which is a Democrat county. He probably won't carry Fairfax County, but we may get enough votes to put the Virginia total in the Trump column. And if that's the case, our 11 electoral votes will go a long way to making him president.
All right. Thank you so much, sir.
My pleasure.
So you look at here, that's where people are checking in. Those counters right here are where people are checking in. They're showing their voter IDs. Once they do that, that's step number one. And you see this lady, she's got a ballot. That's how big of a ballot it looks like. And they could go to one of these standy cubes where they can cast their vote, or they can come out here and they can sit down and mark whoever they want to vote. And over there on that side is people actually go and cast their ballots. So it is a very, very simple process.
We were able to take you behind the scenes and show you how people are voting. They believe in early voting. A lot of people coming in and voting. How Democrats and Republicans are trying to convince voters when they walk in by giving them sample ballots. We took you behind the scenes to show you how voting is actually done in America. And also, we're able to show you sample ballot, mail-in ballots, and where people can go and mail those ballots in. Now, these votes will be tallied, but they won't be counted until Tuesday, November 5th, when we will know who will become the next president of the United States.
A surprising new player has entered the political campaign scene. In the final days of the election, adult film stars are stepping into the spotlight with a very serious warning for their fans. The message? If Donald Trump wins a second term, he might just try to pull the plug on the porn industry. So 17 adult entertainers have started the Hands Off My Porn campaign, aimed at encouraging young men to vote against Trump. So far, the campaign has spent $200,000 on advertisements on adult websites, cautioning viewers that Trump supporters want to ban pornography. Moreover, the campaign even argues that Trump supporters want to ban pornography and criminalize the actors. This initiative is primarily a response to Project 2025, a plan for reshaping the federal government if Trump wins. This plan, proposed by the Heritage Foundation, seeks to make producing and consuming pornography illegal. Project 2025 also links porn to serious social problems, similar to illegal drugs. Project 2025 proposes a stringent series of measures targeting the adult film industry, as well as LGBTQ+ content. It categorizes both as harmful and addictive. The plan also outlines severe penalties for producers and distributors, including imprisonment and designation as sex offenders. Now, critics argue that these measures are not just an attack on pornography, but also part of a broader conservative agenda. According to the National Coalition Against Censorship, the Supreme Court has consistently upheld the legality of pornography as long as it does not involve minors. Critics say that this campaign brings attention to an important issue in American society, namely the conflict between conservative values and personal freedom. The Hands Off My Porn campaign ads are being shown in 7 key swing states, namely Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada. The timing of the Hands Off My Porn campaign is crucial. Younger men, particularly those aged 18 to 29, are among the largest consumers of adult content. And as Kamala Harris faces challenges connecting with younger male voters who are increasingly leaning towards Donald Trump, the campaign offers a unique opportunity for Democrats to re-engage this demographic. Beyond engaging with younger voters, the Hands Off My Porn campaign also intersects with broader discussions about gender and sexual freedom. The rise of adult film actors as political advocates could change the usual political stories and reach a wider audience. It looks like the stakes couldn't be higher this election. For some, it's a question of jobs and free speech. For others, it's a personal viewing choice. So whether you're voting with your wallet, your morals, or your viewing preferences, this election has something for everyone. And now it's time to talk numbers. With less than a month remaining for the US presidential polls, the race for the White House is becoming quite intense. Vice President Kamala Harris maintains her narrow lead nationally, but it remains a neck-to-neck battle in key swing states. So let's take a look at how the presidential contenders are doing in the polls today. According to the New York Times Siena poll, Harris is leading in the national polls with a 49% approval rating, while Trump is trailing at 48%. In the swing states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, Harris is maintaining a lead at 49%, while Trump is at 48%. In the state of Nevada, both Harris and Trump are locked in at 48%. And in the state of Arizona, Trump has taken a lead with 49%, while Harris is now at 47%. And in the states of Georgia and North Carolina, Trump is leading with 49%, to Harris is 48%. With the polls swinging from left to right every day, the election is becoming quite intense, as both Harris and Trump are locked in a nail-biting race. And now it's time for some quick updates on the political landscape in America that you might have missed. The White House has informed everyone that US President Joe Biden is set to cast his vote for the presidential election today. In the American polls, many Americans can actually opt to vote in advance of the November 5th polling day. Biden has done the same. Already, early voting is underway for many, and it can be done either through in-person voting or through mail-in or absentee ballots. Early voting for the 2024 US presidential election actually started last week. Donald Trump wrapped up his Madison Square Garden rally on a high note by dancing with Melania Trump by his side. As the crowd enjoyed the moment, Melania referred to Trump as America's magic. The former First Lady made a surprising appearance and even spoke to the crowd before welcoming Trump to stage. This was Melania Trump's first rally during the current election cycle. Puerto Rican stars Bad Bunny and Ricky Martin have thrown their support behind Kamala Harris in this year's presidential election. Both their endorsements could be a boost for the Harris campaign, as it tries to bolster its support with Latin voters. The Puerto Rican vote is sizable in Pennsylvania, which is arguably the hardest fought of the swing states in the 2024 election. Other singers such as Jennifer Lopez and Mark Antony have already expressed support for Harris. So that's all we have for you in this edition of Race for the White House. See you again tomorrow on India Today Global.